The cover three defense is experiencing a bit of a renaissance at the NFL level right now, with several teams going back to it on the money downs. With the NFL being largely a two-high defense focused on cover four quarters, palms, split field coverages such as cover 6 and cover 9, and also dropping into Tampa 2 or cover 2 match, this defense, when mixed in appropriately, is throwing some teams for a loop and getting a lot more stops. You may attribute this defense to older, more historic defenses like the Legion of Boom with Pete Carroll in Seattle, but there are a lot of teams in the league running it right now. Right now, the Chicago Bears are near the top of the league in takeaways, and this is largely due to their ability to roll their coverage and poach routes that teams are not expecting those lanes to be filled. So today, I'm going to be answering the question of whether or not this defense can be a base defense for you in Madden and the responsibilities of all of the defenders within this coverage. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell, grab out your pen and pad, and let's lock in. Now, first things first, before we take the field, I want to talk about some best practices for this defense. You guys can run the cover three match out of really any defense that provides you the opportunity. And the way that you can tell whether or not it's called cover three match is pretty simple. The play is often called cover three match, but if it's not and it has some other designation like seam or another type of vernacular, the easy way to know whether or not it's a matching variant of cover three is whether or not your flat zones are this light pinkish shade. If you were to contrast that to the more purple shade of those zones, you will definitely be able to tell the difference. If you're a little bit colorblind and you can't tell those differences, look at the bottom left earmark of the tile that you're calling. It'll tell you whether or not it's match or zone. Now, the next thing that we have to do from there is we have to eliminate any tells from our defense. You'll see that one of the weaknesses of this defense is that it presents as a single high. And this is a big no-no from a perspective of an offensive Madden player, because this is going to tell us right away to go to our cover three beaters. The best teams in football right now are mixing in this coverage from a too high alignment. So when you guys are actually calling this defense, it would behoove you to call this defense from a shell that can present as either a cover 2 or a cover 4. What you need to do to accomplish this is flick the right analog stick once you're in the formation you want to choose, and you're going to choose either cover 4 or cover 2. For me personally, I do like to run a lot of quarters, palms, cover 6, cover 9, in addition to cover 3 match. So I will set this as a cover 4 shell so I can mix this in very, very well. My opponents are expecting that cover 4 variety. Now let's go ahead and get into our responsibilities when we take the field. Now, as is the case with literally any match coverage defense, the rules for your defenders, in particular your hook curls and your seam flats, will be dictated by the offensive spacing. For this purpose, we need to make sure that we're establishing a number count on the offensive formation. To make this really easy, you're just gonna label the receivers from outside to inside, and you will count running backs that are in the backfield or tight ends that are lined up at their traditional tight end positions in the count. So on the left side of the formation here, we have Jerry Rice as our number 1. Brock Bowers is our number 2. Then to the right of the quarterback, we have Devin Hester as our outside number 1. Larry Fitzgerald in the slot is our number 2. Gale Sayers in the backfield as the number 3. What's up, guys? Just want to say, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, but also open up another tab and head over to gridirongameplans.gg. I talk about how much content is on the website in every single video, but with the focus of this video being on match coverage, I want to alert you to the best product I have ever created in my life, and that is my Madden 26 match coverage Bible. I don't care if you want to learn how to run quarters or palms or cover 6 or cover 9, or how to run the cover 3 match in even more detail that I'm breaking down right here in this video here today. This is the best resource for defensive coverage in the game. If you guys struggle with bunch strong, trips tied in, 2x2 tight, under center, I've got something for you. We talk about which coverages to call, who to use, or what stunts you can use in front of it out of different formations, blitz packages. Everything you need to know is in my match coverage Bible and my Miami Dolphins defensive game plan on the website. Go check it out. Now back to the video. If the offense came out in a trips look that looked something like this, we would still use the same numbering system, outside to inside, with Rice being 1, Brock Bowers being number 2, Larry Fitzgerald being number 3. And then to the quarterback's right, we would have Devin Hester as number 1 and Gale Sayers as number 2. This is pretty simple stuff here, but for the purpose of this video, we will be focusing on spread formations, which again, we will make sure that we go forward and talk about some compression type stuff as well. So again, make sure you guys are plugged in right here by hitting the subscribe button. Now let's go ahead and get into the rules for our defenders, generally speaking, against a 2x2 formation. Let's start off with our outside third defenders here, okay? So with this, what we're gonna be doing is we are relating to number one. Essentially with match coverage, this is a zone coverage where if a player enters your zone, you then convert from playing zone to running in man-to-man with him. If the player goes vertically through a zone, we can illustrate this here by putting comebacks on the outside. We're going to break back to the quarterback here, but I want you to watch how the outside corners that are in the deep thirds break back towards the sidelines with those players. This is going to be the same type of man-to-man match response if they break any direction after going vertically. So let's say, for instance, here I put Jerry Rice on a post, and then on the other side I run a deep dig. And then in the middle of the field, I'm maybe running, you know, just like a drive combo on the right. And then we're running kind of like a dagger on the left. A team would do this a lot of times if they suspected that cover 4 match. Again, this is the benefit of us presenting the defenses too high and kind of baiting our opponents into a cover 4 beater. But what you're going to see here in this particular breakdown, and I'm going to spy the pass rush, is let's focus on those outside corners here, how they're going to stay with those outside receivers the entirety of their route. So let's stay with those outside receivers. And you see here on the left, Jerry Rice is matched. And then on the right, you have the dig matched on this play as well. Now I'm going to throw the ball away here. That's pretty simple. If they go vertical, they will stay with them. Where a lot of people begin to become confused, however, is what are the roles of the seam flat defenders and the hook curl defenders in this? And I'm going to make this real simple for you. The seam flat defenders relate to number 2. Those are our slot receivers on both sides of the field. If the slot receivers do 2 things, you're going to end up with the seam flat committing to those routes. The first thing that they could do is go outside. So if I were to put both of our players on the outside on, let's say, flats, and then pair it with curls. Curl flats, pretty common route combo. You're going to see that the seam flat defenders on both sides of the field, the left side, the safety, the right side, the nickel corner, are going to take those players to the flat. And then from there, if I just buy time, they're not really running around here, but they will kind of stay latched onto them on that play. Once they're in their zone, they're going to end up staying on them. I want to illustrate that for you so you see this and you don't expect your flat defenders to be there the entire way, because I know that that is something that a lot of players will be confused by when a play goes into scramble mode. Okay, so what I'm going to do is spy the rush again. We're going to run that curl flat combo, and I'm just going to let these receivers go up the field. In fact, I'm going to try to playmaker him. And you see how that seam flat is now running down the field with Brock Bowers. And in that particular example, we just got a lucky catch in traffic. Again, more often than not, you're going to be able to break that up. Now, this is really, really important that you guys understand that once a route is forcing you to commit to playing it, it's man-to-man, okay? So you lose your flat roll defender on that play. The other thing that a seam flat defender will match on is anything vertical, hence the name seam flat. We've already attacked the flat with number 2 on both sides. Now let's attack the seams. If I snap this ball here, you're going to see that both those players are going to play vertical. And you see right here that they match them down the field. And wow, I just agged twice in a row here. It's part of Madden 26. At this point, you just got to laugh at it, right? But the point is they're playing man-to-man on this. And obviously, if I had 4 hands for 2 controllers, I'd click on and pick that, okay? Once a player goes vertical through the seam or to the flat, the seam flat defender is man-to-man on them. This also includes, in most cases, routes that go and break once they've stayed vertical. So if I were to set up something like maybe this would be a smash call to the right, and then basically just a post from the backside, you're going to see that the seam flat defender is going to commit to both the corner route on the right and the post on the left. Except for there's a little bit of a different logic here on this. This is where we start to get into what is the post defender doing and what are the hook defenders doing. And this is where we have to kind of talk about the hard conversation with cover 3 match. Cover 3 match is a great mix-in. It's really, really good in particular because our seam flats will match vertical attacking threats in the slot. The technique that they play, however, is a down and outside technique. They're basically playing the low outside hip of the defender. Why? Because we have safety help to the inside here. So that is the technique of both of these guys. So you see right here in this case, Brock Bowers pushes vertical. The seam flat is jumping outside leverage on him. So if Brock goes outside to a corner route, this is a great opportunity for us to be able to defend this very, very well. As you see right here with Larry Fitzgerald breaking to the corner, he's pretty much smothered. This would have been an interception if I tried to throw this as a cover 3 match beater. However, right here, because this seam flat has help in the form of not only the hook curl defender that's walling off the release for an inside pass lead to Brock, but also the safety over the top that's responsible for playing both seams. This seam flat will say, okay, I'm going to go supply help to a potential comeback route or curl or something on the outside. So you see right here, this comeback route would have been intercepted by our seam flat defender. So there is a benefit to the way that these play. You just have to have that expectation of there are situations where they will drop them off. But to simply put it, if a route from the number 2 receiver goes vertical or to the flat, it is going to be matched. Where a lot of players are also going to lose an understanding of this coverage is, what do the hook curl defenders do? I can't tell you, as a player that watches a lot of people play this game, how many times I've seen people play cover 3 match and think that they have a flat zone to the outside, and they don't do their job as it relates their assignment. The 2 hook curl defenders in a cover 3 match will basically take dual responsibility for the number 3 option. And there's only one number 3 option on the field. It doesn't matter what formation you line up in. It's impossible to have a number 3 on both sides because there are only 5 players eligible to catch a pass in an offensive formation. So you can only have 3 on one side or potentially 4 on one side, but that doesn't allow for a number 3 on the other side of the field. So both of your hook curls are going to relate to the number 3 receiver. So I'm going to click off of both of my hook curls, and I'm going to show you what happens when I push number 3, Gale Sayers, to the flat on a swing route or a table route. In fact, I'll just set up basically a flooding call, and you guys pretty well know what to expect with this here. What you're going to see is the matching as I've already laid out on the number 1s and number 2s in the formation. But the really key thing is the hook curls match number 3 to the flat. So you see, if I go to throw this ball, you see how that player is responsible for taking him on that throw to the right. Now, this is where this is really interesting, because a lot of players in this game in particular love what is called the sneak through flat, where they'll have a running back on a stock route that just runs straight to the other flat. In a case like this, you're going to see the other hook defender swing down onto that and make that play as well. In other words, this is really important because a lot of players will hang out on the weak hook defender or the weak inside quarter if they're playing match, because they view it as the zone with less responsibility. In quarters, that is probably true, where you can hang out on a weak side safety if there's no number 2. But in cover 3 match, you have to understand that if the running back swings your way or runs an in route or anything that attacks your side of the field, that ends up being you. So you're going to see here that this is me, and that's why you have to have match in behind, because you don't have a hook defender dropping into the middle in this particular context. So when your opponent is running concepts like this, where they're running a deep in breaker from the left, and then they're running a shallow running back route to that same flat, this is why we want to have the match coverage the way that it is. A lot of people are going to rip this dig route, but you see right here that I have really good coverage on that particular route. Meanwhile, on this side of the field, we're getting the match technique that we expected. And on this side of the field, you're getting the match technique as expected. So most importantly with this, you do your job. Now what I want to do is I want to get into something a little bit more spread tripsy. 3 receivers to one side of the field, and you're going to start to see how this cover 3 match is going to handle this. Now, to be honest with you, we don't really need to go back over the seam flat rules for the trip side of the formation, because if I were to go ahead and run, a runoff route to the outside receiver number 1, and then I run a corner route to the middle receiver on this play, and then maybe I attack to the right flat with Brock Bowers, you're going to see the exact same rules that we just saw in the 2x2 with the hook taking 3 to the flat. Pretty simple stuff there. So it's a relatively good flooding sideline matching coverage that relies a lot on your underneath defenders to handle the slot receivers running those routes. Where this starts to become a little bit different, on the other hand, is when that third receiver starts to cross the field. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up basically a drive combo from trips, which is a middle receiver on a streak, outside receiver on a deep dig, and the number 3 receiver on a drag route, basically a shallow cross underneath. This is designed to make it so you have to high-low this player right here. If he plays the drag, you rip the dig. If he plays the dig, you throw the shallow cross. Well, that's really good against like a cover 3 sky defense or a zone defense, because you're not getting matching on this. So you play this, particular route, and then they rip that dig if there's enough time in from the backside, okay? In cover 3 match, on the other hand, this particular concept is going to actually be pretty well defended because of the matching on B and right bumper. And then when it comes to this particular route here, you'll see that this number 3 shallow cross under gets passed off to the other hook defender. So in this particular case, actually, this is really a great player to hang out on, because if for whatever reason that drag route is getting open, you could just take that manually. So when you're dealing with a trips tight end type offense where that inside receiver is constantly dragging, cover 3 match is so nice to be able to play, because I could just sit here and say, all right, I'm really keying number 3. If he runs underneath, he's mine. If not, I'm free to do whatever the hell I want. In this particular case, he runs under. That's me. And you see how if they were to try to rip that throw to B on the backside, that's going to be intercepted because it's matched and it's bracketed by the underneath hook defender on this. So you see really, really well that the cover 3 match handles a strong flood from trips to the sideline. And it also does an okay job against a weak flood where they're kind of all coming across the field towards the quarterback. So again, you see right here, I jump down with my user. I'm kind of hanging out here with eyes on 3. Number 3 breaks shallow. I know that he becomes mine. And in a lot of cases, to be honest with you, what I'll do at this point, this is more advanced, but I'll just switch stick back to this player so I can return to poaching in the middle of the field. And usually by this point in time, you're hoping your pass rush has done their job, gotten some wins, and somebody on your team can shed and get home to the quarterback. But you saw that call, how it basically matched the exact same way against trips as it did against 2x2 with the running back in the backfield, with the hook basically playing kind of a tandem call with the other hook and figuring out where number 3 is going, and that's going to dictate who can return to the middle of the field. Now on the backside of this call, I want to kind of talk about some other popular things people will do. A lot of times you're going to notice basically kind of like drive off calls. Let me actually just go ahead and call 4 verticals with this running back on this in route. And I'll just put him on an easier route that doesn't take forever to release. So when you deal with something like this, you're going to notice that, and I'm just going to try to buy time here. You're going to see here that in this particular call, the hook defender that is on the trip side basically is going to have to pass off the release of his number 3 vertical into the inside. So again, when he starts to go inside, you see how he delivers the crossing route to Roquan Smith, and then now his attention is back underneath to the running back. This is why we talk about how important it is to understand which player you should be using, what your opponent's tendencies are, because number 3 crosses the field. He has a hook that's going to take him the rest of the way. He now needs to return back underneath. So a lot of times these popular throws are going to be the speed ins to the running back. So what you can do in these particular calls is kind of hang out here against that 4 verticals and basically ball snapped. Oh, it's an inside release. You know that you're going to end up taking the running back and just kind of cheat to it. Okay. If he ends up running, like a streak straight up, he's going to run into the middle 3rd defender in your cover 3 anyways. So you should be mostly fine. But I do want to alert you to the possibility of one of the things that frustrates me most with this particular coverage is that sometimes in this, the weak side hook, which is Roquan Smith, will not run all the way across the field with that crossing route, and that he'll sometimes drop it off. In this particular case, it's playing great. And you see that, all the guys are just staying locked into man-to-man, doing their best to run with all these routes. And again, it looks fine, okay? But just be advised that sometimes when you're dealing with a trip style call, that can occur. Another thing that you guys might run into is the shallow cross from the backside solo receiver. When you're dealing with this out of cover 3, you'll see here that you actually don't have a lot that can take him. You'll end up with kind of that same swapping occurring with the hooks, and you have to be aware for that as well. That is probably one of the weaker, throws that sometimes people will exploit you with. A lot of drags in this game from a lot of different receivers. So again, I'll kind of show you that. Basically with this, again, what I like to do is I like to make sure that when I'm playing against a trips look, if I'm dealing with like verticals with a drag, something like this, I'll basically say, okay, ball snap, that guy's going vertical. Now I'm switch sticking to him and I'm going to take him the rest of the way. Okay. That's going to end up being your responsibility. Okay. So just kind of be aware that you're likely going to be switch sticking to one of the 2 hooks based off of what the route combo does within the first probably 2 seconds of the play, and you'll be fine. Now from there, you're obviously able to kind of generate pressure however you want. I know a lot of people like to run, stunts, Tom, pirate, whatever. Call your cover three match with stunts as well. But four down lineman defenses aren't the only defenses in the game that you can run cover three match out of. In fact, there are some pretty solid ones that you can actually create your own cover three match from. I'm gonna take you to one that I used to run a lot last year. You guys can find this in a number of playbooks. The Miami Dolphins is one that has it, and this is the crossfire meta. Now, the crossfire meta is really interesting because this is a cover three blitz that only has one 3-rec hook on the field, but I'm gonna show you guys how to change this into something a little bit better. So what I'll do if I'm calling a cover three blitzing type call where I'm rushing 5 and I don't want to rush 5, I just want to try to create some sort of passive loop pressure rushing 4, is I will change this into 2 hooks. So I'll take this linebacker here, put him in the hook on this side, and I'll take this safety and put him in the hook on the other side. This will allow this coverage to then assume the exact same rules that I laid forth to you. If you don't believe me, just watch here. I'm going to put the running back on an in route out of the backfield. Let's run a deep crossing route to Bowers, a streak. We're basically just makeshifting 4 verticals. We snap the ball. There's pressure. And again, you see how that linebacker on the right takes the running back underneath and the safety's matching the crosser on the left. But again, the key to this is making sure that you probably want to be using the one that's taking the shallow in breaking route because that's the likely throw on this. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I know in this particular case, the likelihood of a running back in route is high. The likelihood of a tight end crossing is high. If the tight end runs a corner route, I can always switch stick off. That's totally fine, okay? When they go ahead and run, let me just put a corner route, a streak, and whatever, drags, whatever on the field, just meshing underneath, right? When they go vertical, I'm thinking to myself, let's switch stick, all right? And then I'm playing in the middle of the field. But again, you see right here that unfortunately, there are route combos in the game that do break the rules from what you think they should be, all right? So this isn't a perfect defense. It does have deficiencies, but I'll tell you where I think it could be really, really valuable to you guys is that meta that so many players like to run out of bunch formations, all right? So when you talk about like the bunch nasty meta where a lot of times that receiver runs across the formation or the bunch tight end where a receiver runs across the formation, you're going from a bunch formation to a 2x2 formation. This could actually be really useful as a audible in your formation. So like, let's say for instance that just for the sake of argument, I'm just going to throw cover 3 match of some sort into my audible set. And let's say that I'm coming out in quarters. Let's say for whatever reason, our opponent is running some sort of auto motion scheme out of their bunch. It's something that they do fairly frequently, but maybe for whatever reason, we want to be in a cover 4 base defense. Could be quarters, could be cover 6, could be cover 9. Again, this is the benefit that I talked about all the way at the beginning of the video when I talked about how we present our defense as a 2-high defense. And then we have this opportunity to mix in our cover 3 match as necessary. Well, if our opponent is maybe exploiting us with some sort of auto motion wheel or some sort of route that's, beating us pretty easily, what I like about this is the ability for us to kind of switch into this on the fly. So I'm in the cover 4. Oh, they start their auto motion. Let me get into cover 3 match. Now you see that we're going to be in a spot where I'm now playing match. The wheel is handled, whereas it normally cooks cover 4 quarters for a quick throw. And then we have the safety on the seam route while we're then playing the cover 3 match rules on the fly. And when this ball is snapped, this is no longer bunch. We now have a 2x2 with a 1, a 2, and a 3 on the right, and a 1 and a 2 on the left. All we did was check into the call. And you see right here, we end up in this particular instance with this being handled pretty well. You see that we end up with the matching. If there's maybe a throw, you might take a risky inside seam throw here. But again, the problem is you got a safety in the middle of the field. So you kind of initially when you did this, you thought, oh, I'm going to exploit this match call and throw that quick wheel to the outside. Well, you're not doing that against the cover 3 match. So while it's not a true cover 3 match, it's a decent mix in. It can also be really useful against trips tight end type players that like to motion across the formation to create kind of a gun doubles look. Essentially where I think this type of coverage is best is going to be spread formations. Like I said, I wanted to focus on 2x2 spread and a little bit of trip spread in this video. We will come back and talk about 2x2 tight. I'm going to be a spoiler for you. I think that some of these compression formations give this style of coverage a little bit more trouble than maybe the rule sets that are found in cover 4 quarters, palms, cover 6, and cover 9. But again, this is something that I think you can add to your arsenal. A lot of people are not prepared for it. And there are some pretty solid blitzes in the game that you can always change into a regular cover 3 match by just making sure that instead of 1 3-rec hook, you put a couple of hooks, one on each side of the field. Now it's just the cover 3 match that I've been laying out in this video. Now, again, there are so many different route combinations, and I know you guys will talk about it in the comments. Obviously, he who holds the chalkboard last wins the play, but these are the general rules for the zones that match in this play and what their behaviors are. They're not perfect. No set of match rules are, but the more you run match and get beat in it, the better you are at adjusting it. And again, I would strongly urge you guys to check out gridirongameplans.gg for more. I've got my entire match coverage game plan over there. It's been serving me and my customers very, very well. They're winning a lot more games running this coverage than trying to sit in zone or man or cover 0 blitzing and just dropping random people on the field. I promise you, this is the best way to play defense in Madden. And I hope you guys will go check it out. But I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys had a great holiday. We're back at the grind here. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.